Hello lovers of Westeros, I'm Ashley of Noth. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss another portion of Maggie the Frog's prophecy to Cersei. As we know, when Cersei was a child, she visited a woods witch to have her fortune told. She was given 3 questions, and Cersei asked, "When will I marry the prince? I will be queen though. Will the king and I have children?" Question 2 will be the topic of discussion in today's video. If you want to hear more about it, you're in the right place. Just keep watching. When Cersei asks, "I will be queen though," Maggie responds, "Aye, queen you shall be, until there comes another, younger and more beautiful, to cast you down and take all that you hold dear." So, who's the younger, more beautiful person that will do this? In no particular order, let's take a look at some options. Margaery Tyrell. Margaery is who Cersei thinks will carry out the prophecy, and that's almost enough to make me say it won't be her. Nevertheless, let's discuss. According to Sansa, Margaery is 16, brown-haired and brown-eyed, slender and beautiful. Sansa even thinks how she dreamt of having a sister as beautiful as Margaery, and that Arya was, quote, entirely unsatisfactory in comparison. What a great sister. Jaime thinks Margaery is as clever as she is pretty. When discussing Renly and Loras's plan to use Margaery to seduce Robert into divorcing Cersei because Renly and Loras believed Margaery looked like Lyanna Stark, Varys describes Margaery as sweet and beautiful and tractable. Clearly, Margaery being beautiful is without question, but is she trying to cast Cersei down and take all she holds dear? Yes and no. In the show, Margaery is more of a chess player, so you can make the argument that she is trying to do these things. We see her using sex to bend Tommen to her will, and Margaery plants the seed in Tommen to send Cersei back to Casterly Rock. In the books, it's different because Margaery isn't alone with Tommen at night, save for their wedding day. Margaery does coach Tommen on how to be a present, more involved king by encouraging him to sit in on his small council meetings, and Cersei takes this as a slight because the more involved Tommen becomes, the more that infringes upon her wanting to rule until Tommen comes of age. Now, again, she takes this as a slight, but I don't think it is. Cersei is effing things up left and right, so anyone with an iota of sense would try to mold Tommen to be better. Tommen is actually more infatuated with Loras than Margaery in the books, not sexually, more or less in a way that kids today might look up to LeBron James or Aaron Rodgers. Again, Tommen is more infatuated with Loras than Margaery, so were Loras interested, he'd probably have more influence on Tommen. Also in the books, it's Sir Kevan, Cersei's own kin, who wants to send her back to the Rock and remove her from all matters of governance. And let's be honest, the power of being queen is what Cersei holds most dear. Not her children, not Jaime, power. So Margaery isn't the one trying to take that from her and cast her down, it's Sir Kevan. Cersei's paranoia actually drives her to cast Margaery down by using trumped-up charges of infidelity. So again, it's this is all perceived in Cersei's mind, at least in the books, that Margaery is the one trying to do it, even though that's not what reality shows. The show does play fast and loose with book plots, but I don't think they differ on something this significant, which brings me back to my original point. Cersei's obsession with Margaery being the one to cast her down virtually guarantees that it will not be Margaery, but we shall see. Sansa Stark. Her beauty is just as well established as Margaery's is. According to Tyrion, she is just as comely as the Tyrell girl. Grief had given her a haunted, vulnerable look. If anything, it had only made her more beautiful. But will this beauty be the one to cast Cersei down and take all she holds dear? Well, I would like this because Sansa has the motive and it would make her 100 times more interesting. I don't think it'll be her. I should also mention the irony of it all because Cersei thinks Sansa is an idiot. So if one day this idiot contributed to her downfall, it would be kind of awesome. But again, I do not think it'll be Sansa. In the books to this point, Sansa doesn't have the wits to cast Cersei down, nor does she have the ability to take anything she holds dear. Sansa did very much want to be queen, but this was out of her naive the world is a fairy tale mentality, not a thirst for power or wanting to steal anything of Cersei's. In the show, Sansa is very power hungry and will do anything to her own family to get it. However, she wants to control Winterfell and by proxy the North. She's only concerned with Cersei in terms of protecting the North from her. In Season 7, Episode 6, Sansa tells Brienne, "I will not set foot in King's Landing while Cersei Lannister is queen. If they want another Stark prisoner, they can come and take me. Until then, I'll remain where I belong." So we have it straight from the horse's mouth that she won't be going back to King's Landing, aka Cerseiville, anytime soon. If we take Sansa at her word on this, which I do, she eliminates herself from contention. Brienne of Tarth. Now, you might find yourself raising an eyebrow at this one. Yes, Brienne is described as one of the most unattractive characters in the book. What with her being said as roughly equal in height to Robert Baratheon, muscular, having a nose that's been broken multiple times, having prominent crooked teeth behind swollen lips, and brittle, shoulder-length, straw-colored hair. How could she fit Maggie's prophecy? To quote Marwyn, who in turn quoted someone else, "Prophecy is like a treacherous woman. She takes your member into her mouth, and you moan with the pleasure of it and think, 'How good this is.' And then her teeth snap shut and your moans turn to screams. That is the nature of prophecy. Prophecy will bite your prick off every time." In other words, prophecy isn't what it appears to be. We do know that many mock Brienne's looks by calling her Brienne the Beauty. Perhaps George wrote that into the story so Brienne could fit the prophecy and bite Cersei's prick. And after all, who could bite it harder than Brienne? Of Brienne, Cersei thinks how she remembered the Maid of Tarth, a huge, ugly, shambling thing who dressed in man's mail. Jaime would never abandon me for such a creature. Cersei would never see this coming, and I, for one, would love that irony. Speaking of Jaime abandoning Cersei for such a creature, her words, not mine, let's explore this. I've maintained that what Cersei holds dear, or should I say most dear, is power. She does care about Jaime, but after he lost his hand and ceased to be her perfect mirror, Cersei valued him less. Could Brienne take the throne or Jaime? As one of the most skilled swordspersons in Westeros, obviously Brienne could cast Cersei down by killing her, but Brienne has no claim to the throne, so she couldn't ascend it herself. So Brienne won't be taking Cersei's role as queen, and in the show, more so than the books, Brienne gives 0 Fs about Cersei. Jaime, however, is another story. Brienne could just kill Jaime or lure him to his death, as Lady Stoneheart has forced her to do. However, I don't think this is how Brienne will take him. That theft will involve Jaime's heart. Initially, Jaime mocked Brienne mercilessly, but throughout their journey together that changed. In fact, I would say Brienne humanized Jaime and brought out the best in him. Jaime saved Brienne from being raped by fabricating the riches of Tarth, aka the Sapphire Isle, to the Bloody Mummers. He saved Brienne from a bear she'd been made to fight with the blunted sword and actually threw himself between she and the bear, thereby risking his life. Once at King's Landing, Jaime imprisoned Brienne for her own safety after Loras confronted her about murdering Renly, and then he arranges for Loras and Brienne to meet so that Brienne can clear her name. Now, this is twice he saved her life when he had no reason to beyond the fact that he wanted to. Jaime also demands that people put some respect on Brienne's name in his presence, as evidenced by him smacking Red Ronnet Cunnington across the mouth after Red Ronnet referred to Brienne as, quote, "a sow in silk," and said that the bear she fought was less hairy than that freak. Oh, and who could forget the time Jaime got hard at the sight of Brienne's bush? or how he stared longingly at the island of Tarth as he sailed to Dorne. Sorry, Cersei, but the train has left the station, and it was Jaime's choice to go. I say all of this to say an interesting case can be made for Brienne, and she can't be easily dismissed. Also, Gwen Christie is a stunning woman. She's been my Woman Crush Wednesday many a times when that was a thing on social media, and I think her beauty is underrated. And I'm not sure why I'm telling you guys all of this, so I digress. Moving on. Arya Stark. Arya would be a fun twist on the prophecy in a similar way as Brienne. Arya isn't considered beautiful by most. Her own sister calls her horsey face. Her sister's best friend takes it a step further by neighing at Arya, and she often passes for a boy. However, Arya is thought by both Ned and Bran to resemble Lyanna, and Lyanna was said to possess a wild beauty. Now, in terms of casting Cersei down and taking all she holds dear, Arya would have no problem doing it, as House Lannister is the source of many of House Stark's woes, and it was Lannister guards who killed Syrio, if you think Syrio is really dead. Wanting Cersei to feel her pain is what earned Cersei a place atop Arya's list. That being said, Arya wouldn't stop at casting someone down if they were on the list. She would kill them. Aside from the fact that Cersei is on Arya's list, we got verbal confirmation in Season 7, Episode 1 that Arya wants to kill the Queen. If that happened, this could make the younger, more beautiful figure and the Voluncar the same person. Based off how Maggie spoke the prophecy, I interpreted that the two figures aren't the same person, but as Marwyn noted, prophecy isn't what it appears to be, so never say never. Regardless, I'm sticking to the assertion that Arya will kill Cersei, not take her job. In fact, later in this video, I'll make the argument that Arya will link the two figures, but not by having them be the same. She could serve as the younger, more beautiful person's Voluncar or a younger sibling. Daenerys Targaryen. Daenerys is widely regarded as the most beautiful woman in the world. By Westerosi standards, her purple eyes and silver hair cement her place as the cream of the crop. Only a fool would say Dany is not beautiful. This truth isn't lost on Cersei either. According to Lena Headey, who plays Cersei during Season 7's Dragon Pit scene, Headey says this of her character. I think she's immediately envious because Daenerys is more beautiful and younger than she is, and the prophecy says somebody younger and more beautiful will take her place, so I'm sure that's at the forefront of her mind. How couldn't it be? This young beauty showed up at Cersei's door on Dragonback with an army of Unsullied and a Khalasar of all the Dothraki screamers there are. In the name of her father, niece, and nephew, all murdered by a Lannister or Lannister catspaw, Dany isn't playing around. To quote her, I'm not here to murder, and all I want to destroy is the wheel that has rolled over rich and poor to the benefit of no one but the Cersei Lannisters of the world. You go, girl. That wheel provides Cersei with what she holds most dear, and actually all she has to hold dear at this point. Her position as queen and the power it entails, and that by rights belongs to a member of House Targaryen. In my opinion, this makes Daenerys one of the best fits for the younger, more beautiful person that will cast Cersei down and replace her. To recap, I think Daenerys will cast Cersei down and replace her. Arya, while more than willing to cast Cersei down by killing her, would not take Cersei's place. Maggie the Frog implied that the one to replace Cersei and the one to kill her are two different people, and Arya seems to be the latter of the two. Brienne might kill Jaime at the Stoneheart's behest, so she'd be taking one thing Cersei used to hold dear. And Brienne would not become queen in Cersei's place. So while an interesting case can be made for Brienne, she is not the best fit either. Sansa has always wanted to be queen, but is now focused on protecting the North and has no plans to leave it in the show. In the books, Sansa is much too simple to depose anyone, so she's not exactly a perfect fit for this role either. Margaery is trying to become queen by marrying one of Cersei's children, which actually she marries them both of the sons, while Books Margaery tries to help Tommen come into his own, seemingly because the realm needs him to be a good king. Her show counterpart is far more manipulative of Tommen, and she uses him to try to push Cersei out the back door. So Margaery does make sense as Cersei's replacement. However, if Books Margaery gets Show Margaery's death, it can't be her, as Cersei officially becomes the queen she wants to be upon Margaery's death, meaning Cersei is the sole ruler of Westeros and does not share that power with a husband or a child. Ultimately, Daenerys best fits the bill in my assessment. Before calling it a day, let's have some fun. Keeping in mind Marwyn's assertion that prophecy isn't what it appears, I'm going to ask you to have an open mind. What if Cersei's younger, more beautiful replacement is a man? If we look at Maggie's verbiage, she doesn't specify the replacement's gender. She says another. So a man fulfilling that part of the prophecy isn't impossible, but who would do it? Jon Snow. Think about it. How many times has Jon been referred to as Pretty Crow, said to be prettier than someone's daughters, or just called pretty in general? As was the case for Brienne, I have to wonder if George bookmarked Jon for this prophecy by writing that into the story. I've long thought that Cersei's future was intertwined with Jon Snow after she said this in Season 1. What harm could Lyanna Stark's ghost do to either of us? Oh, Cersei, didn't your encounter with Maggie the Frog teach you about asking questions you won't like the answers to? It just so happens that Lyanna's ghost, aka her son, aka Jon Snow, is also the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, and Rhaegar married Lyanna, making their child the heir to the throne. Sooner or later, Jon will come to claim his throne, which means he'd replace Cersei and take the one thing she values most and the one thing she has left. Earlier in this video, I mentioned Arya might link the younger, more beautiful person in the Valonqar. I think it's plausible that Arya could serve as the Valonqar to Jon, who'd be the younger, more beautiful replacement for Cersei. Now, Arya isn't technically Jon's sister, but Jon is arguably the sibling Arya loves most, and vice versa. To them, technicalities don't matter. In their minds, Jon and Arya will always be brother and sister. Perhaps Arya will do her brother a solid and kill Cersei, simultaneously getting vengeance for House Stark and clearing the way for Jon to ascend his throne. And now I'll call it a day. Coming up, I'll have a companion video to this one inspired by subscriber Scotty16976, in which we'll discuss how the future Maggie predicted for Cersei might just apply to Jaime as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and join my Khalasar. I'm Ashley of Noth, and I thank you for watching.